What's up, everyone? This is Ryan here, coming at you with a unscripted update for 2018. Yeah, a bunch of interesting stuff is going on, and I haven't been super active pretty much for December and the early part of November. And I'm going to be talking about why that is the case. I'll be talking about current projects, tutorials, blah blah blah. Let's just dive into it. So first and foremost, I've already been asked a couple times if I will be continuing to do the live stream Q&A every Sunday. So obviously today is a Sunday and I haven't actually done one, but I do plan to start the new regular Q&A stream pretty much on January 14th. Most likely I will start it up again. Possibly it could be the next week and the week after that, and I'll kind of talk about why. But I do plan to keep doing the Q&A, and it will of course be free, and you'll be able to, if you like, come in and harass me or teach me new things or ask questions or whatever you really want to do. So yeah, longer story shorter there, most likely my Q&A sessions, live stream sessions, will begin again on January 14th. Probably the same time. So there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. So one of the main reasons why I haven't been super active, particularly in December, is I've been diving into learning Kotlin. Now, pretty much I basically said to myself, once the my Rust tutorial was finished, which it's primarily finished, there's another episode I need to add to it, but quite frankly I've got bigger fish to fry right now. But I basically said, okay, once that tutorial is complete, more or less, I basically want to almost exclusively be writing code in Kotlin. Now, that doesn't mean I won't ever do Java tutorials or anything like that again, but the reality about this channel is that in most of the time, I'm just teaching you stuff that I'm kind of learning at the moment, or things that are just relevant to me in the moment. And what I really need to do right now is learn a ton of Kotlin, and that's what I have been doing. So just a couple things I wanted to mention. First and foremost, probably by the time this video gets published, there will be a link in the description box below to a new project, which will basically be a Kotlin Model View Presenter Calculator. Obviously, it's not a complicated application, but basically what I've done is, like I usually do, I've created an application which is conceptually quite simple in order to learn the basics of Kotlin. And what I'll be doing after that is building more and more complicated projects in Kotlin. But basically, I'm quite comfortable in Java. I'm very comfortable in it. And I thought, okay, let's just start with a basic project. And I'm going to kind of do a couple things at once with the project. So first and foremost, it'll be a tool for me and you to learn Kotlin. So certainly hop into the repository. It's not quite complete yet, but it's mostly finished. But also I'm going to be using it as a teaching tool for model view presenter tutorials, which gets me to the next thing I wanted to discuss, is the next tutorials I'll be working on. So I've been getting inundated with requests to do content on model view presenter. Now, I talk about it a lot in my live stream Q&A sessions, but I haven't really recently had a Q&A session where I'm confident enough to pull it out into a separate video. And I do really want to make a more dedicated sort of video on Model View Presenter. And so what I plan to do is, one of the tutorials I'll be making is basically like a language independent and sort of higher level abstract explanation of Model View Presenter. And then I'll show you how to build it using Kotlin. Now, if you're familiar with my really early tutorial where I did a Model View Presenter calculator in Java, it will be a similar app to that, except it'll be a lot better. When I wrote that thing, it was, I don't think quite 2 years ago, but it was certainly a long time ago, and my understanding of Model View Presenter was more limited. I actually got quite a few things right in that tutorial, but definitely room for improvement. I'm not sure if I'm going to rebuild that old project in Java, though. It'll really come down to if I have time and if I get inundated with requests. But my goal is kind of for the Java people out there, you'll be able to watch the language independent tutorial, and I'll explain what Model View Presenter is, why we even bother with something like that, what it does for you, those kinds of questions. But most of the content I'll be releasing, certainly in the earlier part of 2018, will be in Kotlin, just so everyone's clear on that. I don't plan to do like dedicated Kotlin tutorials right away because I'm still learning it, and to be perfectly honest, I don't think the right way to, well, let me explain this to you. I haven't been learning Kotlin by reading a whole bunch of articles and watching a ton of videos. Yeah, I do look into that when I have a specific problem to solve in my code, but as far as learning Kotlin in general, what I'm doing is I'm building an application, a simple one, and I've got lots of open source Kotlin code on the side that I can reference. So we're talking about Android architecture, sorry, Android blueprints, the Google samples repository on GitHub. Also, my friend Durel has some absolutely amazing repositories in Kotlin. I'll check with him and probably link them in the description box below, but there are amazing examples of clean architecture in Kotlin, so that's been super useful. And anyways, the point I'm trying to get at here is, yeah, it's okay to look at tutorials, it's okay to watch videos, it's okay to do that kind of thing, but for me personally, just in case you're curious, I'm learning Kotlin by writing a lot of Kotlin code, and I don't think there's a better way to do it than to do that. Certainly for me, I'm just not very good at like rote memorization. Like I'm not good at reading something, an article with very little code in it, and then going from that to let's write the app. I just like to dive in. Anyways, I can tell I'm rambling. So main tutorials coming up: Model View Presenter, language independent, Model View Presenter, Android Kotlin. And in the Model View Presenter tutorial for the Kotlin version, it is going to be a lot more than sort of basic Model View Presenter. Like I'm going to show you building each part individually, and it's going to be great. Anyways, other than that, I mentioned this again on the live stream, but one thing I really want to start doing on this channel is featuring other awesome, talented, interesting developers and basically asking them about their code. And basically, to a large degree, I'd love to start interviewing people and practicing that kind of skill. And I think that's great because then you viewers get to hear other people's sort of perspectives and opinions, and we get to have a nice merry time learning things. So stay tuned for more announcements on that. I've pretty much got my first interview lined up. We're just going to iron out the details, but stay tuned for that because that's going to be interesting. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is I'm going to be overhauling my Patreon. And basically what that means is what I'm pretty much finding is that to a large degree, because I do most of my stuff for free, it's been kind of difficult for me to sort of, on one hand, like produce products or projects which do make a little bit of money. So for example, I wrote the ebook, link in the description box below. I wanted to basically provide other means and other ways to sort of support the channel and sort of give things back. Now, originally what I thought I would do is I would just release almost everything I do free on YouTube, and I just assumed that most people would be gracious enough to throw me a $5, but apparently that's not really the case. Fair enough. So anyways, what I plan to do is on the Patreon, I'm going to be looking at it over the next week and setting up a whole bunch of different rewards. And basically how it's going to work is I am kind of getting to the stage where I don't really have enough free time to keep up with all of the questions I get. So the Patreon will become sort of a place where you get sort of extra access, perks. I'm also looking at sort of setting up basically show sponsors for the Q&A, things of that nature. So anyways, I haven't really decided what I'm going to do, but suffice it to say that I'm going to be overhauling the Patreon, so there's going to be a lot more options to sort of for you to have access to my time and knowledge and those kinds of things, and or if you just want to support the channel as well. Yeah, I'll be overhauling that very soon. So that's basically it. It's been a live, unstructured. Oh, I missed one thing. I am now the proud owner of 2 books I've been really meaning to get my hands on. So number one, we got these picked up for over the holiday season. Number one, Clean Architecture by Uncle Bob, Robert C. Martin. So I wanted to pick this book up because it's basically a big reference to clean architecture, and although I can tell there is a fair amount of stuff I can learn from this, one of my favorite things about reading this was to go through and just look at all the different things that I already do fairly well. And as someone who doesn't have a degree, it's very vindicating to like go through like a clean architecture book and be like, oh, hey, yeah, I did that properly. So that's been a real treat, and I'll be going through this book. I'll probably do reviews eventually. That is something I kind of plan to do from the very start of the channel. So I won't make an official announcement, but probably expect a review of this book. And then the other book that I picked up was Patterns of Enterprise Architecture by Martin Fowler. So I'm basically looking, the only other book that I'm really looking at right now is Effective Java by Joshua Block. So anyways, I've almost got my main reference books sorted out, but this is also an absolutely, it is an older book, but the thing about it is that the patterns in the book don't really change a whole lot over time and languages. The solutions are still totally valid. And Martin Fowler really explains architecture well. And I really appreciate that as someone who's sort of a visual thinker and someone that needs a lot of code examples. This book is packed full of them, and also super excited to go through that one. Again, probably I will do a review eventually, but I don't, you know, I've got a lot of projects on the go right now. So that's basically it. Stay tuned. We're gonna, I think, have a pretty awesome year for 2018 in terms of tutorials and code. The last thing I'll mention is that I do plan to do a lot more streaming in Kotlin and just building projects live. Now, a lot of people kind of get irritated because they think, I don't want to have to watch a 2-hour-long video. Well, you know, tough shit. I mean, what I would give to have a developer just constantly building things and offering to answer questions and stuff like that, I don't know. I wouldn't really complain in that particular scenario. But anyways, there will be more tutorial content, but I'm really busy learning Kotlin, so expect a lot of streaming. So that's basically it. One last message. I just wanted to give a shout out to one of my oldest bros, Jordan Cordyback, who's the person who brought me this shirt. It says, everything I touch turns to nerd. And on that note, peace out.